Good afternoon. There's been a lot of questions about what is important to do when you're taking notes. So, what we're going to look at today is me taking notes on the Russian culture section. You are welcome to use the notes that I have or to watch this as you take your notes to see what it is that I put in and where you're writing down stuff that I didn't, or if you're missing some of the things I did. One thing to know though is that I take very detailed notes. That's just something that I do. Um, and so you'll see that I put down everything. The more important part is what I do with my notes after. So we're going to go ahead and during the notes section, we're not going to just sit and watch all 12 minutes of the video. I'm going to speed this up so that you can see what I'm doing after I take the notes that is the most important. Okay, so now that I have finished the notes, I'm going to go back through and make all of my adjustments. On this, the very first thing I'm going to do, of course, is make sure I know where my title is. I want to know where these notes start. Um, then I got to go through and read everything. Do I understand where it is, and do my notes make sense? With this, I'm just updating my notes to put them into more sentence form so that they're not so choppy. Okay, I want to know that communism, the government doesn't want anything above itself, so they are putting a limit on religion. Atheism, the belief that in no supreme being was the state religion. Okay, that's important because that's the difference between the USSR and Russia, which is what we're noting here. The 70% um, atheists, 18% Christian, 10% Muslim during the USSR. Of course, I got to make sure that all of my words are spelled right. Sometimes they were spelled so poorly that even spell check has no idea, and that's okay. That's why we fix them. Okay. After the USSR, we have the huge rise in Eastern Orthodoxy. Okay, and then finally, then over to education. Do I understand it? Okay, what is free and how do I make them smaller? I don't want to have so many notes that when I'm looking through them, I can't find what I'm looking for. So in this, I'm taking what was a line and I'm switching that to a word within a sentence I already have. I also want to make sure I understand what I put in. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And I know that, but I want to put in there just to make sure. Okay, and then examples, I want to include my examples. Okay, Sputnik was the first one in space. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go through and say, okay, I want to know about Sputnik. I want a picture of this Russian satellite in my notes, physically in my notes, because that's going to help me remember that it was important. Remember that it was something um, worthwhile. It was a very important thing. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and insert a picture. If you're doing these by hand, it may not be as easy, but you can just get a picture and print it off, okay, and include it and just tape it to your notes. Okay, so we have Sputnik. We've got our picture of Sputnik. Our next thing that we've got on here is continuing with education, talking about how education, the no free higher education. Well, that got a little weird the way I wrote it. So I'm going to go back and almost rewrite the entire sentence so that it makes sense to me. I don't have to have it in his words. I need to know what he's saying. I need to know why it's important for me. Okay, and then of course my formatting is a big thing for me because I'm a little crazy like that. I want to put my pictures in it. Changes that up a little bit. Okay, then we move on to the disease or the healthcare. Okay, smoking, drinking, and lack of healthcare has made them very unhealthy. Healthcare is getting better. And then GDP. And I want to make sure I know we're talking the fall of Russia. Now, a case study. Whenever there's a case study thrown in, you know that that's important because there's a lot of case studies we could talk about. We could talk about 10, 15, 20 different areas within Russia because it's so big that has different issues going on. But he specifically is looking at Transcaucasia. Okay, so I want to know, I want to make sure that I'm highlighting in my notes that Transcaucasia is an important thing. So again, I'm going to come over here and I'm actually going to find the exact same picture that he did. I'm going to find that because well, first I failed first, so I just got another picture. Um, Anytime that I can do that, I do. I go and I find the pictures that he had because there's a reason that that particular image was picked. Now this one I picked it and then I realized, no, it's the wrong image. I don't want this image because it doesn't show the mountains. I want to find a physical map, and so then I found his actual one. I want to find the physical map that shows, excuse me, that shows the mountains, and gives and helps us remember that it's because of the mountains. I mean, he said that like 10 times. It's because of the mountains that this happened. There's a physical barrier that happened. So I'm actually going to go and find his exact picture to help me remember that. Okay, and then again, I'm emphasizing it because of the physical barrier. He that this has this case study. Okay, then we switch over to the yurts. He had that picture of the yurt. Apparently, there's some pretty snazzy ones. This one even has a garage, pretty impressive. Okay, but I'm going to use the picture again that he used. This gives you the idea that it is a hunter-gatherer lifestyle where it's not just like a traditional like hideaway with your Porsche and your three-car garage yurt. But really the idea is the hunter-gatherer, the um, traditional groups. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little cough. And then I want to make sure I understand what the stands are. Do I know what the stands are? And so I'm going to find a picture that really clearly shows me what the stands are. Sorry, guys, I have a cough. Okay, and I'm going to put in my pictures. I'm going to make them pretty. Okay, and then he said, this is the most important notes. So I'm going to highlight, this is the most important notes. I need to understand this stuff. I didn't know how to spell laissez-faire, so I went and I typed it in, and it came up. Okay, I could also type in the definition of it, economic system where the government is not involved, and it would give me the correct spelling of it. Okay, so again, just going through, checking, make sure I understand everything, everything is spelled correctly. Do I understand heavy industry? Moving some of the notes. Again, this is taking something he said 2 or 3 or 4 lines later and moving it up because it fits and also because it can save me some space. Again, I don't want 7 pages of notes if I can avoid it because I want succinct notes. I want notes that tell me what I need and they're quick so that when I need them, I can go through and find what I'm looking for. Okay. And now I'm going to look up a picture of subsistence farming. So look at all these pictures, a lot of pictures out of Africa. Subsistence farming is just a farm that basically makes enough food for an individual person. So on this, I'm looking for a good picture that's going to remind me of that, and I couldn't find one. So I've looked through pictures. I got an idea of what it is. Probably the best picture that was on here as far as subsistence farming is this picture because it shows just an individual like family farm. Um, but I didn't find one that really said, yes, this is what it is, so I'm not going to put it in. But just having looked up the picture helps me define it in my head, and I can go through and maybe define it more in my notes if I need to, even if there wasn't a picture that really worked for it. So don't hesitate to look up stuff and find it and just get a better idea of it. I watch a lot of YouTube videos when I don't know about something. Okay, you may have to look up people's names. You may want a picture of Boris Yeltsin. You may want a picture of Gorbachev. Um, it's up to you. This very last bit of the notes got a little bit confusing. He started talking about a lot of stuff kind of out of order. So I wrote the notes, but then I wanted to come back in and change everything because I know what he was talking about. I know people wanted to leave because they wanted to be closer to the free market system, but the way he said it was kind of confusing and he said it a bunch of times, but said it a little bit differently each time. So I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite it. And then, of course, at the end, he talked about those different leaders, talked about them so quickly that I'm just putting in GDP continues to rise. If I need to, I can go back through and look up the leaders of Russia if I really want to. Putin is the leader now. He was leader before. There's one in between. So then I go back and change any formatting I need on my notes, move around pictures, make it all pretty, and then I am done. I hope that this has helped. If you ever have any questions about notes, please come and talk to me. I'm more than happy to help you out with your notes. Thanks, guys.